Warning. The following podcast contains self-indulgent, context-free humor, which some people may find confusing and disturbing, but we admit it, so it's okay.
This is the Brain Software Podcast. This is episode 169, coming at you from the World Hypnotic Epicenter, Toronto, Canada. This is episode 169. Oh, I already said that. You put it in the notes twice. I'm the CEO of Mike Mandel Hypnosis, Chris Thompson, and today, Mike Mandel and I are going to discuss supreme confidence of the ignorant. So stay tuned. It's going to be a fun episode.
Hey man, what's happening, Scro? I'm just hanging out in Cydonia looking at the face on Mars, pouch. You're never gonna believe me, bag. I'm the one who designed the whole thing, man. Even the agricultural terraces. Anyway, I heard a great joke the other day from Nikola Tesla. He and I were hanging out and pulling some cool fins on my Tabacron, Scro. Tesla tells me this hilarious joke. It goes like this. Question. Why did Niels Bohr get the same crap haircut every time he went to the barber shop? The answer is, because he's a dick. Can you dig it? That's effing brilliant, Gooch. Anyway, man, gotta run. I got lunch with Brado up in the 9th dimension. I said I'd bring the cannabis, but we'll edit that out.
So, whatever happened to that old tranquility we used to know? These are days of victory! All right, they are. Thanks, Dr. Ambrose. I'll get you your $20. But in the meantime, let's welcome to the polar vortex of hypnotic hijinks the only hypnotic wizard you'll ever need. A man who is in the middle of yet another 72-hour fast, and the permanent 5-year-old who is essentially fascinated by his own comedic brilliance.
We are not
Mike
witches!
Mandel!
Yes, Chris, we
I
are
like the
back. I almost
turning.
cracked my
Yes!
neck. I yanked in like Jack in the yanking in the yankery there.
You've got to have microphone skills, I suppose, to do that whole
Yo,
yes thing.
it's
Like you're-
instinct. You can't
like you're
teach that
rushing
stuff.
up to it.
Now, we got any promotional stuff?
No, not so much.
No.
We're actually wrapping up filming the NLP course today, which is January.
I like
something.
this. That was kind of
Today,
nice. Yeah.
January something. So we will hopefully be releasing this course in February, which is when this podcast is coming out. So by
Right.
now, it may already be out.
might already
We'll
have-
let you know in the show notes.
We might have released it in the
Yeah.
releasery already.
All right,
man.
so let's get going. First of all, I want to make sure that this is clear. We're going to have a great podcast today talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect,
We are.
confidence, overconfidence, how to solve these problems, and what was the other thing? Of course,
What would
Dunning-Kruger.
let's ask that musical question? What would Jack Ruby do?
What would Jack Ruby do? There we go. Oh, imposter
Comic
syndrome.
genius.
We're going to talk about Dunning-Kruger effect, how it fits in with imposter syndrome, confidence, overconfidence, ignorance, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. It's going to be a really fun discussion. So, yeah, nothing to promote. We just want to make sure we have a good time here on this podcast. That's our goal, to have fun.
But I think it's more than have a good time. I mean,
And give value.
We do, I think, world-class hypnosis trainings, and I'm
Oh,
an
yeah.
NLP trainer, and we do all this amazing
Uh-huh.
personal development. It's not just to have a big freaking laugh. You might want to get past that.
I thought that. Are you being serious now?
No, of course not.
No, okay.
He actually went red. Went red. Flushing in the flushery.
I got to before we get going, I want to
am
mention
going.
this. We're going to go, okay, so we're going to go through the 3 think tank words, that we're going to dive straight into the content, but I want to say this. So last week, we had just changed our studio around in order to do these podcasts.
Right.
And the camera, we just move it up and down based on whether we're doing a standing
much
video
information.
or a sitting video. And I had to move and adjust our teleprompter. And I fixed the teleprompter.
Yeah.
I came back into my spot, but I was kind of creeping around the table
Creeping
edge
in the
and
creepery.
making sure my microphone cable didn't get snagged.
Like Jack the
And
Snagger.
and as I'm doing this, I get back into my spot standing beside you, and I said,
that was weird when you did that.
we're hunting rabbits.
He did this freaking Elmer Fudd impression as he tweaked in the tweakery across the room.
we're hunting
and
rabbits.
I couldn't keep it together for like 10 minutes in the recording.
So
and
I was-
I'm a man who controls
So
the stage.
I said to Ross, our editor, you're going to have a blast keeping some outtakes from that because it was just
buddy.
hilarious. All right, let's get on with the
A couple
show.
of things I want to talk about first. We're going to deal with this email about the Mandela effect.
Yes.
So
Okay.
you want to explain it, and then I want to give the guy yet another example to stress him
Do
out.
you have the actual email? Because
Well,
I did not pull up.
I
the
think
email.
I could probably locate it. I
All right.
have.
So
a
while that's
wonderful
happening,
thing
I'm
here.
going to also mention.
Why did you
nothing?
pause?
I'm not going to mention anything. I'm
Why
going
did
to
you
wait for
pause
you.
when you said mention?
I was trying to figure out what I was going to say next.
Well, it's
But I
not.
admit it, so it's okay.
It's not here, buddy.
Okay, forget it. So
Anyway, let's
I
just forget the
apologize
whole
to
damn
the
thing.
creator of the crafter of the email. We don't remember your first name now because, well, we are not organized enough to prepare this in advance.
Right.
But we got a great email about the Mandela effect. What was it? He said,
Well,
I'm
he said ever
obsessed with
since
this
I
now.
mentioned it in like podcast
80
89
or
or
something.
something,
Yeah.
he said now it's driving him crazy.
Yeah.
And I want to add for the young man who was good enough to write in, and he knows who he is. And he said it's just driving him crazy. Thanks a lot, Mike. Here's one that I can't stand. This is the worst Mandela
What
effect.
is the Mandela effect for those
First of all,
listening?
Mandela effect is the idea that someone has dicked around with reality, probably with CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, opened a
History
frickin'
has
alternate
changed.
universe. History has changed, but in weird ways. And there's millions of people who remember how it used to be, but of course we're all psychologically impaired and we're idiots and we're wrong, even though these things are obvious things that no one ever saw. Here's a classic example, drives me bananas. Turmeric. It was always turmeric. Now it's turmeric with
yeah.
a frickin' R in it. There's no way on earth that was ever turmeric. I know 3 people who are excellent cooks. Lisa, our friend, Chris, comedy cop, not comedy cop, the other cop. He's an amazing cook. And Ryan, amazing cook. I asked all 3 of them, what's that yellow spice that's in a lot of Indian food? He said turmeric. I said, spell it for me. T-U-M-E-R-I-C. Each one of them said that.
And did you say, well,
I said,
you're
well,
wrong.
You're wrong. Not anymore, it isn't. Now it's turmeric.
It's
And they're all
turmeric.
telling me to F off and everything. And I showed them, nobody could believe it. And the weird thing is, and these are solid chef-like cooks.
I know.
The weird thing is, I found in our drawer an artifact. It was a box of Indian spices, and one of them still says turmeric, handwritten, that Heather had put in. It
There you
crept
go.
through. It's an artifact, like Labatt's 50. Now, it's
So like
Labatt
Elon Musk
50.
says,
What?
we are living in a matrix.
Oh,
Or in
man.
a simulate. No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
Okay.
F
So
with
there
my
were some
head.
other ones like the Luke, what I am your
Luke,
father,
I am your
the
father.
Darth Vader line.
And now-
Apparently
now
he
he
never
says,
actually said that.
Luke, I am your father. He doesn't say Luke.
No, I am your
And what
father.
about Queen? We are the champions. How does the song end? Everyone sings again. We are champions
Of
of
the
the world.
world.
Not anymore.
Nope, doesn't end
Now
that
it's
way.
just, we are no time for losers. We are the champions.
Yeah, fizzle,
stops.
fizzle, just fizzle.
And everyone's saying,
And if
shut up.
if you doubt us, go on Apple Music, YouTube, whatever it is, listen to the song. Anyway, hilarious.
No, don't even go there.
No.
You'll open something you don't want to open. This is a door to another reality.
All
And
right.
although we like
All
those
right.
things, not in this case. Okay, let's go to the
We're
next
almost
point.
10 minutes in. We need to get
we
to content.
give quality. This
All
is
right,
content.
all right.
I'm talking about reality.
I know.
Now
you
look,
are.
it's.
I know that you claim that you are.
I want to talk to you about Waffle House really quickly.
Okay.
Have you ever been to Waffle House?
I think so.
I haven't.
Okay.
And Jeff Gaffergy, Jim Gaffergy, whatever his
Who's
name
that?
is, comic Jim
Oh.
Gaffergy. He's hilarious. But he talked about Waffle House and its American institution. He
Yeah.
said, one thing you'll never hear there is, hey, good job of cleaning. And I thought it was hilarious. And he said, if you've never been to Waffle House, and we live in Canada, I've not. He said, think of it as this. Waffle House is like a gas station restroom where they sell waffles. That was bad image. So I was laughing.
Now
I
we're not
Google it.
just to be. Don't sue us. We're not
We're
saying
only
that.
repeating what
This
he
is what
said.
a comic said.
We're completely disagree.
It sounds
even though we've
funny,
never been there.
but the place is probably much cleaner
just
than that.
quoting some. We're just the messenger boys. You can't kill us. So, anyways, much cleaner than that. So, how about I googled it? There's one in Toronto.
We gotta go.
There's a Waffle House in Etobicoke.
if
and
we
you can
didn't eat low carb, we could.
But
probably
buddy,
go.
I'm reading it and going, man, I could eat that. That
Yeah.
looks amazing. It's scary, isn't it? Now, here's the third one. Of course, Michael C. Anthony's all over Waffle House. He eats it all the time. And
course
so
he
does
does.
Stephen Watts. He said it's an American institution.
Oh yeah.
He said you can go in there at night and see.
But he says it with his awesome southern Louisiana
northern
accent, or
Louisiana.
Northern Louisiana. It's American
Louisiana. Now, here's the
institution.
last one I'm
Yeah.
sharing with you. This is a point. This is a pet peeve, and I'm not going to always do pet peeves because I'll seem like a psychotic elder.
You know, my
elderly
pet
guy.
peeve is that you do pet peeves a lot.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? In a way, to
Right.
someone, but not
Okay.
me. Now, listen. Good
listening.
pattern interrupt. Oh, it's right in front of me. I can read it.
Yeah.
You know Lake Ridge, the road coming out of Port Perry.
Oh, for sure. For
Okay.
sure.
So
yeah.
I'm on Goodwood last
Mhm.
week. You'll get this. And I can see why people go nuts with road rage. I can understand it. I don't have it, but I get it. There's a guy behind me sitting so close I couldn't see his wheels. or his license
in your
plate.
rearview mirror.
Yeah, and I'm 10
Crawling
kilometers an
up
hour
your-
over the limit. I'm not going slow like some elderly person, driving in the driveway. So I'm going along like this, and this idiot won't get off my tail, and he doesn't pass. And then it goes to 40 kilometers. There's a construction sign, so I slow to 40.
Yeah.
He's still there.
Yeah.
So as soon as we get on
really
the
just
Lake Ridge,
hovering your bumper.
hovering on the hovery,
Yeah.
I turn left on Lake Ridge to get away and floor it so that I put some distance, and now I slow down to 90 kilometers in an 80. This dick gets right on my tail again, but he's got to get by. He's got to get by. He's got to get by. And so
Ego.
he didn't even have the dark windows. I mean, he had the dark windows, so I couldn't see his face and just go, oh, of course.
Yeah.
Which you say no matter what the person looks like.
Yeah.
He's on my tail again. And now it's a double solid line.
Yeah.
But he figures, I'm going to get past this guy to show him. So he pulls out, roars over the hill, faster than he should, like 110. And right there is a Durham Regional Police.
Awesome.
Facing this way.
Did he get
And I
pulled
let
over?
the guy go roaring away. I see him hit his brakes, and the police lights come on. Guy does a U-turn behind me. I pull over to let the policeman fly by, give him a friendly wave, put this guy in the frickin' electric chair for 30 years. And the guy's pulled over, the cop's on his tail. I thought he's crossed the double line and he's speeding. It's never happens. Finally, there's a cop when you want one. So this Mandela effect universe, I'm really happy about.
All right, I'm going to tell you another short. I promise
We
not
got
to
to get to our material now.
I know.
We got to get to our material.
I had a situation.
material.
This is the only childhood memory I have of this particular situation. I was growing up in Montreal.
Okay,
I was
too much of a pre-frame. What were you wearing?
Can I talk? Let me know when you're done talking.
On my rush shirt. Damn. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so I'm in the back seat of the car with my sisters. My dad is in the front seat driving. Whole family's driving, I think, to see my grandmother. So we're in some heavy Montreal traffic, and it's bumper to bumper. And I guess we're not doing anything wrong. My dad's just normally driving, not like the crazy usual.
Yeah, he's not
Montreal
jacking
drive.
heroin in his arm or anything. Yeah.
Some guy was upset for some reason. I don't remember why. Maybe he was trying to get past my dad in a different lane, but we're here.
Watch
This
my
car,
eye. Watch my eye, buddy.
hers pulls by, and as pulls by, the driver turns to flip off my dad.
Uh-oh.
Right?
Uh-oh.
But we're in bumper-to-bumper traffic. I'm watching this, and I see he turns, he faces, he flips off my dad, and boom, rams right into the car in front of him. And I just...
It's fantastic.
I burst out laughing.
Isn't it great when this happens?
Yeah.
I just love it.
All right, now we're going.
Now let's get the think tank words
We might
going.
have just skipped them.
No, we
Okay,
never skip.
we'll never skip them. We'll go through fast.
That's why people can always turn it off if they don't want to watch.
Number 1, deployment.
Number 2, ballroom.
And number 3, toggle.
Okay.
Okay, we're going through these. So to deploy, deployment
coffee on
thinks
my face.
about, so taking a resource and putting it into action. That's what I'm thinking.
Deployment. I think of deployment of troops to deal
Okay.
with freaking idiots who get on your tail on
Yeah,
Lake Ridge.
which is a resource that you're putting into action.
Okay, so we're deploying
We're in
a
the same
resource.
page there.
Okay, we're on the same
Stop
page.
arguing with me.
Arguing. Now, ballroom. What ballroom? Don't go to your obvious cheap laugh here. Think this through.
Ballroom, large space to gather.
Did you think testicle at any time?
No,
Okay.
I did not think.
We'll edit that
I
out.
did not think testicle.
Okay.
Ballroom, I'm seeing the big, huge chandeliers that are always in those things in the hotel ballrooms, the massive structures.
Yeah.
But massive space to gather for any logical purpose when there isn't COVID in the world.
See, that's the thing. You're way more corporate than me. I think the song Ballroom Blitz right away. I'm hearing
Ballroom
guitars.
Blitz.
It's
Yeah.
so we're seeing a gathering. So we're bringing the resources into this wonderful gathering place for the fellowship and the use of it.
So you can deploy your resources into a ballroom.
Okay, and what are you going to toggle? What are you
So
toggling?
toggle is, remember when we talk about on and off, right? Toggle,
Yeah.
something is digital. It's on or off. It's you either experiencing a phobia or you are not experiencing a phobia. It's not a gray scale. It's like a dimmer switch, right? Turning up the lights.
Right.
We toggle the lights that we're using in the
Toggling off,
studio. So I'm thinking on and off. So I don't know where I'm going with that,
Neither do I.
but I'm just thinking on and off. There you go.
I'm just using tremendous restraint here. You have no
I know.
idea.
I know,
Anyway,
toggle.
so we've got deployment. So we're going to deploy resources into this immense ballroom of enjoyment with fancy
Which is your
chandeliers,
life.
Which
Let's
is your
use
life.
your life.
Whereupon we can toggle off the stuff that bothers us.
Toggle it off,
And
Mike.
toggle on like Jack the On.
That's
toggler.
right. So
okay.
what do you want to turn off in your life and what do you want to turn on, right? What do you want to just...
Let's get to our first point here, the Dunning-Kruger effect.
All right.
And I talked to our dear friend Lori Hammond about this a while back.
Yeah.
Lori is pretty well the closest person to an expert on the entire imposter syndrome thing that I know. And she made a big study of this, and it's great. We got talking about Dunning-Kruger effect leads into imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome is when someone is really skilled, as you know, Chris, but they think they're not skilled enough. And they feel like they're posing as an expert, but they aren't one, which I'm pretty sure happens with fairly alarming frequency to
people.
People.
Are you pointing to me?
No, leaving it wide open there.
All right.
So Dunning-Kruger effect precedes.
Sure. Let's actually go through the steps because I think this is something we talked about this yesterday. You know, I did, but I'm wearing the Chris Thompson socks again. And on purpose, I put them on the opposite foot. I'm a rebel. The left sock is on the right foot.
Some people rob banks to be rebels.
You know, I'm the honey badger. I'm a badass. Yeah, there we go. All right. So we've got the 5 steps that we outlined on my little notes. Yeah. We were doing a Clubhouse chat yesterday, and that's where this came from. So we start out, and everyone listening who has any kind of NLP experience, remember the idea of unconscious incompetence. In other words, you don't know what you don't know.
You don't even know that you don't know.
You don't know that you don't. Yeah, it's not you don't know that you don't. You don't even know that you're unaware of something. So as an example, before I talk about it, Mike might have no conscious thought about the fact that, well, he probably doesn't know how to pick beam sizes to support a floor or something like that. Oh yeah, you're right. I've never studied engineering where I would learn about stress and strain and spans and
only because it isn't
whatever. Yeah. So until you talk about something, you go, oh, I wasn't even aware that I didn't know. Then you become aware. Like let's say hypnosis, the topic of hypnosis. Oh, there's this thing called hypnosis. Oh, now I'm aware that I don't know anything about it. So that's sort of step, let's call that step 2. So step 1 is you're ignorant about a topic and you don't even know that you're ignorant about it.
Right.
Then the very quick reality, this is the toggle, you become aware that you're ignorant. So now you know it.
Well, then you're aware that the subject exists.
Yes,
let's say, right.
You're aware that the subject exists, like computer chip design that powers my iPad here. I have no idea how that works, and I know it, right? But if I was a kid, I wouldn't even know there was a chip inside there. Okay, so we get the point. Step 3 is that we start to get some knowledge about a topic. We decide, hey, this is interesting. I want to learn about this. So we go and buy The Complete Idiot's Guide to Hypnosis. Okay. Right? Now we become a master of hypnosis. We think that what's in that book is the totality of the entire field.
Yeah, so we highlight the book and we think, I now know everything there is to know about hypnosis.
So basically you have some knowledge on a topic and you know that you have that some knowledge, but here's the thing, because your actual myopic view of that field isn't reality, it isn't the totality.
Hence the term
you myopic. Actually are back to the you're ignorant and you don't know it step.
That's very interesting. So I like to look at this as a Venn diagram. So you have a massive circle, which is the totality of something, knowledge of any subject. So let's say hypnosis. Okay, so this massive. Oh no, let's give a real world example.
Hey, remember our fake digital sign that's up here? Let's not put our hands through it, or the people will know it's fake.
You can't. Well, we'll edit that out. So listen, give an example from wine. When I started, I never drank wine in my life. I started in 2005 reading about wine.
Yes,
I got into it. Read Wine for Dummies. And later I read 1,000-page encyclopedia. That's right, and then I started writing about wine, and bottles of wine started arriving at my house in cases. And I became a wine writer and became a wine judge eventually. But in those early days, I'd read Wine for Dummies.
Yeah.
I thought you were vomiting.
No.
I read Wine for Dummies, and suddenly the Dunning-Kruger effect kicked in because I knew this much about wine, but I didn't know the topic of wine was this big. This was all I saw of it. Yeah. So I thought that was all of it. So I thought, I'm an expert. Actually, I was a dick. Because what do you mean was? What do you mean now? The Dunning-Kruger effect is real dickishness because people begin to pontificate on a subject when they're still at this phase. Now, when you continue learning about the topic, then you recognize, oh, shoot. Okay, I've learned a lot. But there's still all this. I guess I'm not an expert. I must be an imposter. That's when the imposter syndrome kicks in.
That makes sense. Hey, do you have mice in your house?
Do you have mice in your head?
I'm only asking because the hat looks like it has little chew marks.
It has little chew marks on because it's about 25 years old. I refuse to throw it out.
Just like chew pattern interrupt. There you go.
It's a cat knitting on it.
I know. I knew it was your cat.
Mice in your house.
So there you go. There's your Dunning-Kruger. So think about, this is an interesting thing to consider. Where are you experiencing Dunning-Kruger that you think you know so much and maybe you really don't? Like I could probably be guilty of that with respect to podcast studio setup.
I don't know.
What do I really know about all this?
You're more
I'm pretty good, but I know there's this totality.
You're more imposter syndrome guy with that. You know a lot about it, way more than I do. As
maybe
by the fact that he yells at me every day when we commit a setup. Now, back up for a second, Chris. So we got Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah.
That's when people think they know it all, but they don't know how vast the field is.
And then what
That's
happens?
when they're dicks. Then they stop being dicks and they get imposter syndrome, become really humble and think, I don't know enough about this to be called an expert.
Right.
But then as they press on, they go on to full,
expert.
true mastery.
So we're going to catch up where we are on our list. So we've got the I'm ignorant and I don't even know that I'm ignorant. Then we immediately get to I'm ignorant about it, but I know it.
Yeah.
Then we get some knowledge, but we think we know the totality of
becomes I'm ignorant, but I won't admit it.
Now we have the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is similar. Then we start building knowledge. We're actually pretty darn good at something, but we know that the field is so vast that there's still so much to learn. So we have this imposter syndrome, which can lead to a lack of confidence.
Right.
You'll feel there, and we'll get into this in a moment. Let's talk about the parts conflict that goes on there.
All right, we'll get there.
And eventually, of course, you get to the point where I still know there's more to learn. I still know that I know a lot. I'm confident with the idea that I am essentially an expert on a topic. I can talk about it. I can perform with confidence. And I'm interested in continuing to learn.
And then you hit the next level where you know so much about it, you tell Ken Sweatman stories about it. Nobody wants to hear it.
And by the way, I'm so proud that we're finally getting back to our, usually we read off the 3 words and then we just forget about them.
No,
what was the first one?
The first one was Dunning-Kruger.
No.
I don't know.
No, you bastard.
Hang on.
It was, deployment.
Oh, yeah. We're deploying this now.
We're using the deployment word here and toggle. We're getting to the point where we say, at some point, there's a toggle switch, right? Think about, I was helping my daughter learn chemistry recently. So I'm thinking about the activation energy required, the energy to build, the learning, to suddenly flip the switch that happens instantaneously that, now I feel like I know enough that I'm no longer an imposter.
Chris, that's interesting because I subscribe to the quantum theory of learning, and I'm not bandying about the term quantum
not like physics.
People do. Oh, it's quantum healing. Quantum is a very specific term from particle physics, and it is a discrete packet of energy that cannot be reduced. You can't have half a quanta. So you can't have half of any quanta, a quantum, in fact. But it does apply to this. Because the quantum theory of learning states that, say you might need 5 pieces of information to hit the next level. After that, you might need only 2 to get to the level after that. After that, you might need 12. But until you get that missing piece, you don't know any more than you thought you did.
Yeah.
And you get that missing piece and suddenly it jumps like Jack the Jumper and you're there.
You just realize it's impossible for you to keep your hands down.
I know. It's called energy.
So we're just going to deal.
Vitality.
I want to say, when we decided to go video, we thought we're going to have this cool neon sign and it'll look like it's hanging on the wall. Like it's hopefully there right now.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't work because it's not a green screen. So whenever we put our hand up, it's actually, the sign is over top of. Anyway, hilarious, but we're just going to admit it. So it's okay. And I wanted to say, with all of this, stay tuned for Mike's upcoming book, The Hypnotist's Complete Guide to Quantum Physics. All right. It's everything. It's not the Idiot's Guide or the
Forward by
Guide.
Ken
It's
Sweatman.
The Hypnotist's Complete Guide to fill in the blank.
That's right. Now, just when we talk about you finally reach mastery, and remember I said to you, when I was talking to Laurie Hammond about the same thing, as a forensic hypnotist who's worked on many crimes, including a number of murders and so on, I've been consulted. I've never given evidence in court, which is what it should be for a forensic hypnotist. You do your stuff behind the scenes. They find corroborating evidence. That's what goes into court. But having said that, remember I said what qualifies one as an expert in the legal system in court?
You just have to know more than the judge and jury.
The judge and the jury. That's it.
And so if you think about it in the general population, you just have to know more than the average, 50%. If you know more than 50% of the population, you can self-identify correctly as a so-called expert.
And then you push past imposter syndrome, and then you have true mastery. And here's my great quote, invoking the great late Neil Peart from Rush, not Pert, Peart, rhymes with beer, not hurt.
Yeah.
Remember, he said, probably the greatest rock drummer of all time, he said, what is a master but a master student? And that's a
that's a great one.
It's a great line, isn't it?
I was thinking that, so we're already 30. No, we're not. We're 25 minutes in. We're good. The computer's a little bit too far away. So we still have some time here. So I think we should talk a little bit about, let's do the rest of the podcast like this. Let's cover the idea of confidence and the parts stuff that we talked about. All right. Man, I got something in my throat.
Well, it happens every time we do this. It's some sort of guilt.
Yeah, it's coffee. Then we'll go to our commercial break, and then maybe we can talk about I don't even know what you said.
Coffee. I said more like coffin. Like you're dying.
Okay, that's pretty funny.
Thanks, buddy. Go ahead.
After the commercial break, let's come back and talk a little bit about hypnosis and catalepsy via Zoom. We had some thoughts on that. I love it. And then we'll wrap it up for there. So let's jump into when you are, let's say, in this imposter syndrome. Let's say you get to the point where you know quite a bit and now you're dealing with imposter syndrome. By the way, again, reminder, our friend Lori Hammond, fantastic with this stuff. So we're not trying to steal her thunder on this topic. We just decided this is a great topic to talk about and plug her podcast, which I believe is called the Imposter Monster Podcast. Mm-hmm. Is that the name of it?
I don't know.
Okay, Lori Hammond, Hammond. Google it. It's on YouTube. She's got a great podcast. We've both been guests.
Nobody's going to believe we don't do drugs. It's just coffee.
Yeah, it's just coffee.
My hilarious lines that I cannot use, Chris, because this is family friendly. Remind me to tell you afterwards the imposter syndrome line.
Okay,
when the cameras are off. Okay.
All right. So, confidence parts. Can you explain, please, the model of parts and the parts conflict that is in existence when someone has the skills but is afraid to present because they gonna look like a fake?
Okay, switching from gesture ego state to
teacher.
Teaching ego state. Ego states, also known as parts in NLP, also known as subpersonalities. Most of the work came from Paul Federn, who's a compatriot of Freud. It went on through Watkins and Watkins, who were husband and wife psychologists. A lot of the work came out of Gordon Emerson who's a psychologist. Emerson did some great work, and he said the different personality parts we have are not psychological constructs. They're physically part of the brain. They're part of your actual brain. They're neurological pathways, electrochemical pathways in your brain that fire habitually, and only one of them can be executive, which means connected to your prefrontal cortex at any given moment. So they're digital. We are digital beings. When that one is pushed out by a stronger ego state, ding, that's the one that takes the executive.
So it's neural pathways.
Yeah.
They're not actual parts. I mean, there are molecules that make up
things.
There are molecules that are active, happening. There's sets of molecules in your brain. But when we say parts, we're using a metaphor here to create a model. That there's a part of you that's the teacher. You're activating certain neural pathways in your brain when you're behaving in that way.
Yes, and some of them know about each other. Some haven't spoken up in years. You have 50 to maybe 150 different ones. You use the same 5 to 15 over and over and over. And you'll have some that like to zone out in front of the TV. Some will tell you when you're hungry. One will tell you when you're tired and it's time to go to bed. One will send you into a room to get something. You arrive in a different ego state. You can't remember what you came in for. It's a different one. Mm-hmm. And the more integrated you are, in our opinion, the more it means that the ego states have neural pathways connecting them so they know about each other as well.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm doing a profound teaching on this with our small group mentoring tomorrow for MMHA Engaged.
Right.
So MMHA.
If you'd like to join the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, you can join for free on trial. Right. Go to our website, MikeMandelHypnosis.com. So, end of commercial.
What you're saying is, you mentioned, though, that sometimes they get in conflict with each other. And we'll hear this in people's speech patterns. I want to go on that vacation to Panama. I really want to go. And there's that ego state. And they say, but I guess I should save the money. So that's, you see, even the physiology, the vocal tone, everything switches as the other ego state becomes executive. When there is a conflict, we'll run into this all the time.
Parts can be in conflict. And often when we want to resolve this, we want to get the parts in alignment.
Now, I'm just trying to understand and failing horrendously, Chris, which, as you can imagine, is very difficult for me to admit. But how were you tying this in?
Oh, well, okay. So as we talked about, I know, it's just memories fading. It's,
What? Just hit me. Carry a blade, buddy.
Remember when we talked about this yesterday in the chat, we were talking about the idea that there's a part of you that says, hey, like, I know this and I want, what does one part want? It wants, let's say, to present as expertise, to build a better life, to help people. Let's say as a therapist, I know NLP, I know hypnosis, I can help you. And you want that. You want to feel that contribution to society or whatever it is that you've helped somebody, right? But then there's a part of you that's afraid to fail. You with me on that?
I am. I'm just
and that's the conflict. There are different parts. Now, which part, it's like in my mind, I'm thinking there's a jiu-jitsu fight to the death.
Yeah,
and
but it's not.
To submission. Which part is submitting and going, the
strongest one is the one that will become executive. Yeah.
Right. So we need to build up the resources of the other part, get the parts to work together as a team or do whatever to make sure that the part that wins out is the part that's actually going to go out and help people.
But you want to eliminate conflict between different ego states.
So let's talk about
The key is you want the best one for the job to be executive at any given time. I've got one of my favorite ego states that I have. I call it my James Bond state. And this one I've negotiated with it to become executive instantly in the case of a life-threatening emergency until the emergency's over. And it's only happened once since I asked it to do this. And Heather and I were on the 401, which is the busiest highway stretch in the world through Toronto, in North America, through Toronto. It's 16 lanes wide. And I was flying along there like Jack the Flyer. And some dick in front of me had like a dresser or something on the back of his truck, and it wasn't held on. It fell off.
Oh, man. Was he spilling coffee on his shirt while he was driving?
I don't know. But it was a different kind of dickishness. But it fell right in front of us, and the lanes are busy. Instantly, that state became executive. And
then Mike.
And I just went around him like that. My wife said, that was really good driving. And I went, heart rate's not elevated.
Yeah, just boom, there you go.
That's having the right ego state executive. You have a heroic ego state. You have an ego state that's really good with little kids or babies. It may not be executive
so how do you
if you don't have
activate
kids.
it?
You learn to build bridges towards them.
You know what I like is when you put your James Bond ego state that was merged with your Jester ego state in Heathrow at the hotel when we were walking out to go for dinner with the group. And remember you?
No, that was my SAS ego state.
Yeah.
Listen to this one.
I called it James Bond.
We're leaving the Hilton Hotel or something. We got a group of like 12 or 14 people following us because that typically happens with Chris because we're huge stars.
14.
So we're leaving the hotel. But there was a bunch of people come out for dinner together, and we're trying to find our way out. We're coming out the front door of the hotel. And they're all in a bunch together, rushing together.
Because of the revolving doors.
Revolving door. I get to the door first, pull it out, grab my phone, and I said, Alpha 2, we're leaving the hotel. Hostage is coming out front door now. It was fantastic.
It was good. This is why we have
we're at work
so much
right
fun.
Now. We are at work
right now.
This moment.
This is great.
Now, listen, buddy. I urge people to look into ego state work. It's absolutely empowering. It's a very useful thing. And one of the problems is when an ego state becomes dissonant, when one is executive that doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And you saw me treat this in one of our classes with one of our students who is an excellent presenter, but sometimes he'd get there even in a completely supportive, non-threatening room, and he said he'd cave.
Yeah.
And he had an ego state that called itself plant.
Yeah, plant.
Like it could be stepped on, a little plant.
Yeah.
And it was afraid.
And then there was the background ego state
called
Lionheart.
And that was the one that took
and it wanted to roar and be powerful.
And we gave that one the authority to take the executive. Anyway, I'm going to do some more work on this. This discovery I've found
that was cool.
Is just awesome. I'll talk about it maybe on a podcast later on. But
for sure.
We have a commercial break, Chris.
All right. So I'd like to
It's not a commercial today. We have our sponsors paid. It's just a report.
All right. And now a report from Brado in Hypno North.
Hey, how are you now? Thanks again. It's your old pal Brado here talking into my awesome iPhone 5. Today I got a report for you about the power of language and that. 2 days ago it was snowing a lot because this is Canada. And I felt like heading into Owen Sound to do some casual hypnosis on somebody. So I loaded up my COVID mask in the truck, threw Eddard out because he was sleeping in it on account of being locked out of the house by his mother due to his bad language. And that, I didn't want him going with me. He's got a gift for dicking things up, which is funny because he's trying to be a doctor. Turns out he bought an online homeopathy course. It's 10 lessons. Then you can go out and treat people and that. Turns out Eddard thought he could rent space for me at my home office and treat patients there. I told him I had no problem with that, provided he got his doctor degree and showed it to me. So he did that. And sure as hell, he was a doctor now, and he did it in only 12 hours, so I had to pretend he'd spent the full 16 hours on it. So anyway, we were going to set up a class operation with me as the mind therapist and Eddard as the doctor, and then the money would come rolling in, and we could hire some nurses to help us out, eventually get hired by Owen Sound Hospital. Well, that's what was supposed to happen. Here's what actually happened. Eddard got an idea from his Australian friend Martin, who he's friends with on the internet and that. Decided to make some homeopathic food and sell it, which is about as ridiculous as it gets, but par for the course for Eddard. So he went to the grocery store, bought a small New York State, rubbed it on some little sugar pellets, then hammered them up and down, put them in a bottle and labeled them steak. He figured if you're hungry, you could take a couple of these and have the benefit of the whole meal. He also figured it'd be awesome for countries without a lot of food because you can send them a single box of steak, carrots, and potatoes, Tim Horton donuts, whatever, and feed a few thousand people. Well, naturally, he was just being a dick again, so I canceled the whole Eddard moving into my clinic idea, and I headed into Owen Sound with my official Brado COVID mask with a spiral on it and that. You see, last week I was watching Doreen, this really choice-looking waitress at the diner, and this hotshot Toronto salesman comes in, sits down. Doreen says to him, "My name's Doreen. Can I take your order?" And this Dick says to her, his name's Labrador Dobster. And they get talking. He says she can call him Labrador, or she can call him Mr. Dobster, or she can call him Lab Dobster. Don't call him Broad Lobster. Well, Doreen thought this was so suave and debonair. He was practically James F. and Bond. And she agreed to go out on a date with a dick, which irritated me to a high degree. So anyway, the next week, I brushed up on my hypnotic language, went to the diner in Owen Sound to see if I could wow Doreen with my own verbal skills, which should have been easy since I'm a hypnotist. My plan was to impress her like that Dick Lab Dobster had. I decided I was going to fixate her attention and say in a really hypnotic voice, "My name's Brad, but you can call me Brado, or you can call me Mr. Hypnosis. Just don't call me late for dinner." I knew that would impress the hell out of her with the wit and all, and I'd ask her to go out on a date to Tim Hortons when she got off work, and if all that worked out, I was planning on taking her to the sidewalk snowmobile races in Keswick, where they have hot chocolate with beer in it, and then off to watch the world champion Dave Ellings in the Crokinole Championship at the Keswick Arena, and then asking Doreen to marry me in that. Well, that's what was supposed to happen. Here's what actually happened. I was in a bad state when I got to the diner because there was a detour due to the snowmobile crash, and I had to pass the hospital, which whenever I went past with Edward, he'd always say, "Isn't that the hospital where you died?" Which isn't funny at all. And then he'd laugh like an effing hyena. So I was thinking about that. I sat down, saw Doreen, and lost my cool. So she came over and said, "My name's Doreen. Can I take your order?" I must have panicked because I said, "My name's Brad. You can call me Brado, or you can call me Hypnosis, man. Just don't call me Broad Lobster," which made about as much sense as Edward's line about the hospital where I died, because I didn't. And it went all red and left, and I left the tip and just came home. So thanks once again. And that's the update from Hypno North, coming to you from Meaford, Ontario, with regular listeners in Shallow Lake and Owen Sound Hospital, and that.
Well, thanks. I just want to thank Brado for that wonderful update from Meaford and that. That's always lots of fun. So let's get on. We have, let's go for another 2 or 3 minutes on the topic of catalepsy and inductions, and then we'll go to empowering questions and end the show.
Well, okay. So catalepsy, of course, being balanced tonicity between the agonist and the antagonist muscles.
Right.
You got your pen ready?
So I got a pen. Let's go through just our... So first of all, on camera, if you're listening only, go to YouTube to watch this, because we are going to do a very quick demo. But generally, we like to do catalepsy, where in person we're going to reach over and maybe grab someone's wrist. So just show how
I might do something like a kinesthetic ambiguity, where
right.
I'm saying, can I borrow that hand which dissociates it verbally? I'll take it, and I'm going to be this kind of thing and cause a cataleptic limb with his eyes closed.
He's going to ask me to close my eyes and then do some ambiguous touching, point out what he's doing, which is going to draw my sensations towards my hand, which then creates this sense that I'm not actually consciously thinking, hey, I'm holding up my hand, but he starts drawing my attention inwards, etc., all through language after the touching of the hand part is a few seconds. How, if we're a hypnotist and we're doing this on Zoom, how can we create catalepsy in an easy way?
Why would we want to? Well, catalepsy is great for super analytical people because you give them an experience. And this is why we love the Jacquin power lift that Freddie Jacquin came up with. Him and Anthony use amazingly. It's a great induction because it causes catalepsy without telling you it's going to. It's not, oh, your hand is rising, your hand is becoming rigid, your hand is stuck. And if you're hyper analytically going, not working, no, it isn't, you're a dick. You're not going to go into it, right? You're not going to follow that. But if you create catalepsy first, we're back to Clark Hall, 1933, anything that assumes trance causes trance.
Right.
We create catalepsy. We now use that as an open door to trance. So the way we create it with this wave is so cool. So I would tell Chris.
So let's pretend that you and I are on Zoom. Okay, so you get a view of both of us.
Okay, Chris.
So Mike,
do you have a pen handy, Chris?
I do.
I'll
Mike.
give you the thumbnail edition.
Yes, I do.
So hold it up, Chris, at a 45-degree angle, and I want you to stare not at the point of the pen. I'd like you to shift your gaze to where your fingers are holding the pen, and focus there, and notice the feeling of that, the sensation of the pen between your fingers, and how much pressure you're using to hold that pen. And let your eyes close now. And continue to focus and notice that sensation at that point where you're gripping the pen. And in a moment, pre-frame, I'm going to ask you to take your other hand and take the pen carefully out of your hand with your eyes still closed. So do that now. Reach over with your eyes closed, find the pen, remove it, and put it down. And focus your sensations intently. Intensify those sensations. Focus on them and notice where you are holding the pen, what that feels like. And if you want to, you can open your eyes and look at your fingers where the pen was. Or you can keep them closed. It's entirely up to you as you drift deeper, and allow your eyes to close again as your hand begins to sink and you go deeper into trance and wide awake now.
All right.
So, there you go. You get the big
I got right into that. That was great.
So let's deconstruct it. You have the person hold the pen at about a 45-degree angle. You don't want it up here like Jack the Here Upper. That's
just
ridiculous.
busy doing a little postural reorientation
right.
here, buddy. Oh.
Hold it here. And you have them focus where the pen is in the fingers. I find that superior to the tip because you maintain a focal point. You say, close your eyes, close now. They close their eyes, have them focus on where their fingers are touching the pen. Really get into that feeling. Notice how tightly they're gripping. And in a moment, which is the Elmanian pre-frame, I'm going to ask you to, with your eyes closed, take the pen out, but leave your fingers in that position. Now, you're not saying leave your hand floating.
I like to even say, imagine you're still holding the pen in that hand.
Have you ever done this on anyone?
Yes.
Who?
I can't say.
So you haven't.
No, I won't say.
Never actually done it. So you're saying, I like to say. So out of thousands of times I've done it, here's what I prefer now.
I did this yesterday. I did this for the first time yesterday.
All right, then you're an expert. Don't worry. It's not Dunning-Kruger, buddy, but
Yeah.
it's not imposter syndrome either. So when they remove it with their eyes closed, and it's easy to do. I mean, you can find your own frickin' hand if your eyes are closed, unless you're Eddard, and then you focus your attention on where you were gripping it and keep focusing. Now you have an option. You can open your eyes and stare at that point. You can get eye fixation. Or you can let their eyes remain closed if you wish and have the head tip forward as the hand sinks. You can add that. So you're getting head tilt. You're suggesting or directing the hand to drop.
Yeah.
It's a great induction. It's super fast. It's a way of producing catalepsy without having to do, any of this stuff.
You can't actually touch someone, obviously, through Zoom. You can't reach through your webcam.
My
so
goodness,
this is
that's
a good
real
alternative.
Game changer for me.
Yes, it is. Now, so I did
save me
this
all those
for
broken
the
fingers
first
I've
time
had.
yesterday.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, we just made this up because it's principles first.
No, we created it.
That's what I mean. Yeah. There we go. Principles first. So you can invent your own. I mean, you could have the chapstick induction. Ooh, look at that.
How do you freaking me? I wish you hadn't said that.
Anything you want to do.
I wish you hadn't said principle. All my experiences in school were bad.
Oh, there we go.
Whoa.
So just use your
Different
imagination. If you're a hypnotist and you are looking for ways to do hypnosis over Zoom, and you can do this for sure in person as well. Lots of fun.
It's right. It is. All kidding aside, it's really, really good.
Okay. So from that, I think we should go to the empowering question.
All right, buddy. What are the empowering questions? There is one.
There is one. Here it is.
Bring
Ready?
it on, buddy.
All
Bring
right.
it on.
Ask yourself, this is about Dunning-Kruger, how is the Dunning-Kruger effect happening in your life? And what are you going to do to take your knowledge all the way through the imposter syndrome to true mastery?
Wow. Wow. I like it, buddy. I got a Meta 5 for you.
All right.
It's Sault Ste. Marie.
Sault Ste. Marie.
Try and say that after 5 hits
It's
of acid.
acid.
Yeah. So, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and Tony Chipman. In the 1970s, I believe it was actually February 1976, I'd been performing just over 1 year. And I was hired to go to the Water Tower Inn in Sault Ste. Marie, which is still there, and do hypnosis shows in 2 locations. In fact, Chris, this was the very place we mentioned before when the diazepam, the Valium my doctor had given me to go on stage when I couldn't find it and found out he'd given me a placebo. I never wound up taking it ever. So I had 2 locations there. One was this chicken house that was a copy of KFC. It was right joined to the building. And the other was in the Sawmill Lounge at night. That was the bar in the hotel. I did shows with a couple of bands there, Cornstalk, the Good Brothers, great guys. But they had me on the local radio show with Tony Chipman. And I was doing a lot of bending keys then and, stopping clocks and all of that pseudo-mental. Well, it is mentalism, but pseudo-psychic stuff. And Tony Chipman was this really cool guy. I went on the show with him and we did it over the air. I bent some keys and stuff in his office, in the studio. And then we had things bend for people who were listening. And people started phoning. The phone lines actually, Bell said they went offline. Like it wrecked them.
Weird.
So because it was electromechanical then, right? So it screwed them up. They overloaded them so much. People saying, my key's bending. A watch I haven't used in years has started working. It was broken. I thought I'd have it fixed. The best one was Sault Ste. Marie. Don't yawn. This is fascinating. Across the border, Sault Ste. Marie, the American side, there were some soldiers there in the army base. And one guy said a pair of pliers sitting on a stove bent while they were listening.
Wild.
So anyway, the program manager said, this is crap. This is the worst radio stuff I've ever heard. Tony, you're never doing this again. His job was on the line.
Oh, wow.
And the calls came in. you got to have this guy back. You got to have this guy back. You got to have this guy back. Now, remember, I was 21 at the time and so 22. So they said, will you come back on the show? And I said, okay, here's the conditions. I want an apology for Tony Chipman.
Yeah.
That it was bad programming because he's a great guy. Anything else you want? Yeah, I'd like some food ready. I was just joking. And James Leroy is writing all this down. He's saying, yeah, you can have this. Anything else? I said, Heineken. He said, the show's at 9 a.m. I said, that's all right. I said, gets me in the mood. I was a crazy kid then. They get 6 Heineken on ice and all this food like bacon and eggs and stuff. And we went and did the show again and broke the phone lines again. And I realized at that point, the entertainment world's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for listening. This has been Brain Software episode 169. Can you imagine? We're closer to 200 than 100 now.
Closer to death, buddy.
And I'm Chris Thompson. This is Mike Mandel, and we are here for you to make your life more awesome, to teach you cool stuff, to have a blast, and, of course, to amuse ourselves.
Absolutely.
So head on over to MikeMandelHypnosis.com. If you want to do hypnosis training, we are offering a free trial of the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. It's a fantastic community of awesome people, and we just love that this is our job and that we can entertain and educate and have fun with you. So thanks again.
That's right.
And good night.
Bum ba boom ba bum ba bum ba boom bum ba boom ba bum ba rum ba bum ba bum ba boom bum ba boom bum from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Bum ba da ba dum bum ba da 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 da. They all call it vinegar, but I call it home. And you're drinking lots of vinegar, and you're sitting in a bar with the French fries and the halibut. If you're driving in your car, and we're all gonna drink some vinegar. But I call it home.
That's freaking brilliant.
Awesome. You're insane.